Okay, it says recording is on. So welcome everyone to Two Paths for Change in the Mining Industry. As we referred to in the title of this event, we're going to be presenting about two ways to make things better, broadly speaking. I'm going to be presenting on continuous improvement, and I'll talk a little bit about myself a bit later. And Madi, my co-presenter, is going to be talking about circularity. So thank you, first of all, for taking the time to either watch the replay or join us live. We so appreciate that. And our goal is to take the next 35 to 45 minutes of your time and give you as much value and insight about these two paths as we possibly can in that time. So we are going to ask you to remain muted if you're not participating. I know lots of you are doing that already, but please feel free to engage with us in the chat, in the comments. We welcome your input. We would love to hear if you have questions for us. We want to make this just as valuable and interactive as possible. So without any further ado, Madi, I'm going to turn it over to you and your presentation about circularity in mining. What does circularity even mean, and how does it apply to mining folks?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Erika. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know probably you might be joining from different places. Thank you again for joining. My name is Madi, the CEO of 5Redo. We are a circular economy consulting, offering services in circularity integration, lifecycle assessment, and sustainable materials R&D. And today I'd like to briefly introduce a topic that is becoming more relevant to the mining industry and its value chain, which is circularity. As we look ahead to the next decade and so, the mining industry finds itself at a fascinating intersection. On one hand, the industry will experience unprecedented demand for the materials. I will talk about it later, that will power the clean energy transition as well as other development that we need on the earth. On the other hand, we are being challenged to reimagine how we extract, process, and think about the life cycle of these materials that we are generating. Today,
Madi,
I want to...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. You're on a roll here. You're doing amazing, but I just wanted to note that your presentation hasn't moved. We're still looking at your title slide here, so I'm not sure if
Oh,
you need to...
yeah. Sure. No, I'm just kidding. No, thanks. Uh, and today I want to share some perspective on how circular economy principles are already being applied across the industry and what opportunities might exist. So let me start by setting the context with something you're already very familiar with, the dramatic shift in mineral demand we are witnessing. When we look at the projected increase from this report from World Bank Group, will be an increased demand in annual demand from energy for metals and minerals from just energy technologies. The numbers are quite remarkable. We are seeing materials like graphite, lithium, as you can see on this graph, and cobalt projected to increase by 400% or 500%. Even for more established metals like copper and nickel, the increase, we are going to witness significant growth. And based on this report, it is anticipated that to meet this demand, we need around 300 new mines to be built. And of course, as these metals and minerals are becoming the backbone of global energy transformation, it will create tremendous opportunity and growth potential for businesses in the mining industry. But the clean energy transition is just one part of a much larger story about global material consumption. And by another report, it has been projected that global material use will more than double by 2060. As you can see on this graph, how it will change for different categories of materials. While metals here on this graph represent a smaller portion, say compared to non-metallic minerals, they remain, of course, absolutely critical to economic development and technological advancement, as it was shown in the previous slides with respect to the energy technologies. So now with this, this doubling of material demand raises fundamental question. Of course, it creates a big opportunity for the mining industry, but how do we meet this growing demand while managing environmental impact? How do we meet this demand sustainably? Of course, responding to the significant increase in demand requires finding more deposits, building more mines, and increasing extraction efficiency. So, primary mining will continue to play a crucial role, but there is need for a complementary approach, which some of the elements, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this presentation, which some of you will see that some of its elements are already being practiced through other frameworks, but this new approach is going to center around this concept of circular economy as an economic system, or when we are talking about application of its principles, or how what the actions are aligned with its principle, we usually refer to it as circularity. So, sorry, my dog is. Um, So at its core, circularity is about maintaining the value of products, materials, and other resources, and even assets, resources, water, energy, for as long as possible. So this is like what we can call it product and resource circulation. Um, Keeping materials active in the economy rather than losing them to waste streams. So these terms like circulation, circularity are key to this concept of circular economy. And of course, there are different ways to achieve this. And as I mentioned, value retention, maintaining the value is at the core, but of course, this also requires what we call value addition. So sometimes we need to add value to what is already in the system to make them to extend their life, to make them more to maintain their life in the system. And also, we can also talk about value recovery. And processing some of the materials and resource and streams that are considered waste, and taking value from them, or extracting value from those materials that are considered waste. I should mention that although closing the loop, and also, as I mentioned, circulation are underlying many actions when we think about circularity and circular economy. And therefore, we might thought that it only focuses on existing material stocks, but in the discussion and in the strategy development based on circularity framework, we have to still be sensitive to the ways that materials are produced and consumed. One reason is that life cycle thinking is at the core of a circularity framework. So that's the main concept. And for that, of course, many other frameworks and strategies that are trying to generate social and environmental benefits across the value chain and supply chain are complementary to this circularity that we are talking about. So let me talk about the drivers for circularity in mining. What is driving this increased interest in these approaches in the mining industry? Of course, there are many that we can talk about. Here, I will just focus on four of them. There is economic opportunity here. Based on several case studies, I will talk about some of them. And these are not just cost saving, but also financial return through activities and projects that often hit multiple drivers simultaneously, eliminating disposal costs while creating new revenues, reducing input costs through efficiency, and so on. Second, we are seeing this regulatory shift. Of course, that's what we might think of as creating, of course, compliance requirements, disclosure requirements, but also market opportunities. And those regulations are from battery regulations to EPR, extended producer responsibility frameworks. These policies are more, the policies are more favoring circular approaches. The third driver that I like to bring up here relates to supply chain actors, which are driving these regulations. Customers and various value chain actors are increasingly demanding sustainable sources and circular content in their supply chains. And finally, underlying all of these are climate concerns. As the world works towards their net zero targets. Of course, every industry is being asked to reduce its carbon footprint, including the mining industry and its value chain. And these drivers are interesting, are reinforcing each other. The environmental regulations create market opportunities, which kind of drives innovation for new technologies that can enable circularity at a scale and also at an economically and bring economic viability to those solutions, which increases further adoption of these technologies. When we look at how circularity can be applied across the mining value chain, it's helpful to think about two areas. So on the process side, we call it like process circularity. This includes practices like remining tailings to extract additional value, finding applications for what were previously considered waste streams. So there are different R strategies or different circularity principles that would be relevant to the process circularity. On the product side, when we go downstream in the value chain, we can talk about product circularity. This encompasses everything from equipment maintenance and life extension to supporting urban mining, to recover metals, or even developing reverse logistics to take back materials and reprocess them. Well, of course, probably for the people who are here, maybe process circularity will be more relevant if coming from a mining company, but within a system that materials stewardship is becoming more and more relevant and important, the company may consider, even while process circularity might be more important, may consider to participate in broader circular systems for their products and materials. So with as I want to kind of don't want to make this too much theoretical, I'd like to share some quick real examples of how companies are implementing these approaches. And these are taken from ICMM reports, and there are so many other ones that I encourage you to find and look, and I will be happy to share that with you. And maybe some of you have already seen those reports and you're familiar, but I'm putting here, going quickly reviewing 6 of them. So each of these examples address different challenges, but demonstrate how circular thinking can create both environmental and economic value. So first case study, let's start with our Canada, our own country. The Rio Tinto's their Arvida Research and Development Center, ARDC in Quebec, they provide a good example. They have done provides a good example of waste to value conversion. So during aluminum production, they capture sulfur dioxide that would otherwise be released and converted into a soil treatment product, and then which is used by local farmers to improve their soil quality. Based on the statistic that been provided, they have made their turns 7,000 tons of industrial waste per year into this valuable agriculture input, which supports the local farming community. The second example is more demonstrating is from the mine company in Brazil, Val, which demonstrates tailing reprocessing at a scale. So what they have done, they have taken old mining waste and using separation technologies to extract high quality iron ore that they convert into pellets for steel production. Um, what they have done, because they have been using renewable energy for this process, they have also avoided, they have been able to report also avoided CO2 emissions, which they have mentioned about over 10 years, 500,000 tons of CO2 emissions they have avoided, while of course because of that remining, they have also contributed to circularity. The third example is related to tires, to equipment, and is dealing with another aspect of circularity, which aims to extend equipment life extension. And what this company in Chile has done, instead of disposing of their mining truck tires when they wear out, they have implemented a comprehensive retreading program. And what they have reported is that they have been able to achieve 25% to 50% um, increase in the life of the tire through this process. So a lot of, like, each example have a lot of details which you can find in the reference, but I'm quickly reviewing just to give you some preliminary insights and introduction. The, I will share three more examples and I will end my presentation. So this next example is from from US, Newmont's, I think based in Colorado. So what they have partnered with the National Renewable Energy Lab and to demonstrate an innovative carbon capture technology. So what they have done, they have combined mining waste with carbon dioxide to create what's called carbonates, which can be used in concrete, production of concrete. So basically, they have addressed two challenges simultaneously: mine waste management and also emissions, and at the end, creating new products for building and construction industry. The fourth example here I'd like to talk about is again going back to Canada, but Northwest Territories, which what they have the diamond mine there they have done through this circularity through what they have done is help strengthen the community relationships. So they have leveraged this activity to build um, relationship with the community. Mine workers were volunteering to collect and process copper wire from mining operations and then donate all the proceeds that are coming through this let's say recovery value recovery activities to the community, to the local charities. And what they have reported is that around 500,000 they have raised for the community through this project. 110 tons of copper out of landfills. They have diverted from landfills. And finally, the last example here is more kind of going to the product circularity. Downstream, we have the battery. The battery is being what this company in Japan is doing. So I think they're saying that they're getting into the pilot. So they have been working on this for past years. It's called a battery to battery recycling. They collect end-of-life lithium-ion batteries, extract valuable metals, and then again use those extracted metals to produce new batteries. Um, what is interesting about this example is their diversity. They show that circularity is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but rather a framework that can be adapted to different operations, materials, and local contexts. I end my presentation here for now, so we will get back to some other probably interesting stuff that might be interesting to you. So Erica, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Madi. I personally just learned so much from what you just shared. There are so many creative possibilities that tick so many different boxes here as you're rhyming off, cost savings, carbon capture, community relations. I mean, it really is amazing when you take the single concept of circularity and apply it across a complex value chain like mining. There are just so many different possibilities. So I'm going to just kind of keep the train going here, but we are going to switch gears from circularity into CI. And for those who don't know, CI stands for continuous improvement. This is one of the great loves of my life, change, making things better. And I wanted to sort of quickly talk about what this means, because continuous improvement, operational excellence, business improvement, there are lots of different methods and different terms for this. But basically what it means is that you're focusing on one problem at a time. You're giving yourself the gift of focus on usually a problem in your
And
operations that is
Erica, sorry
meaningful to
for
you.
interrupting you. You
Yeah.
haven't shared, I don't think you have, oh, sorry, you have shared. I apologize.
Oh,
I
good.
thought,
We're all good?
no,
Okay, let me know in
yes,
the
go
comments
ahead.
if you
My
can't see
apologies,
my
my
slide.
apologies.
No, that's
Go ahead, go
okay.
ahead.
No worries. One thing, and we're going to start talking about the similarities that we see, or maybe some of the overlap between circularity and continuous improvement. One similarity that I see is the ability to collaborate across different functional areas, and having people from the operations, that have their hands on the tools every single day, their boots on the ground, along with the people that are looking out for the relationship with the community, along with the people that are maintaining the equipment, along with the people that are looking out for safety. All of these different departments with their own mandates, maybe their own budgets, their own resources, their own goals, they have the ability to come together around this shared goal of doing things better. So we're focusing on one problem at a time. We're picking out something that's meaningful for us, usually within the operations, something we can see and taste every day. And we're using some tools to see the situation more clearly. We know we live in this society where everything is moving so fast. We have so many priorities. It really helps to be able to take a step back and think about a problem from a bit more of a considered or intentional perspective. When you add up those elements, that adds up to doing things better. And I'm going to deliberately use that broad language because there are so many ways that continuous improvement can be applied in order to produce breakthroughs in mining. So I just wanted to give a couple of examples of projects that I have personally overseen in the very recent past, okay, just to give a sense of the possibilities here. So this process or this method can be applied to long-term mine planning, again, because that involves so many different moving pieces and so many different departments. I used that recently to do an improvement sprint on mapping out some long-term mine planning. We also did one late last year that was looking at specifically at crushing. Remember what I said about the gift of focus? There's all of these operations are running every day. Everything's important, right? But we chose to focus on the unplanned downtime and the availability of the crushing operation. And when we did that, we sat down for 3 days, really did a focus sprint on optimizing the crushing operations. We were able to come up with some changes. Some of them were implemented within the 3 days, and some of them were subsequently implemented by the team in the following months, moving the needle by $2.4 million annually because we were able to get rid of some of the costs that they did not need to bear. Going back a few years now, back to 2019, this was actually a longer on the ground improvement sprint, if you can call 4 weeks a sprint. We facilitated 3 different events. We were working on 3 problems simultaneously. This is for a copper mine. And we came up with $19 million of value creation and cost savings, kind of a combo of both. So 2 of the opportunities actually were based in drilling, because what we found was that they had prioritized the throughput of drilling and getting more tons through, getting more blasts per day done, that they were actually starting to see their quality metrics on their drill go down a little bit. They were leaving ore in the ground. And some of you know that's called underbreak. They also had a metric for overbreak, drilling too much and adding too much dilution, getting waste into the ore stream. And when we were able to basically slow down a little bit and get a better quality drill and blast, we were able to really capture a large opportunity. So these are just some highlights. These are small examples. I want to pick up, Madi, on what you said as well about haul truck tire life. Those tires are so expensive and they're so critical, right? You can't run your trucks without them. And
Yeah.
when you are going through them, either because you're driving too fast or you're hitting rocks on the way, there are lots of different ways that those then can get that the tire life can be shortened when you're able to really focus and capture that opportunity. We were able to move the needle quite significantly. I don't have those numbers, but that was at the time I was working for a company where there were a number of different mine sites all getting on board, all implementing the same improvements. And as you can imagine, that's a great way to scale your benefits and really move into some significant savings. So thank you, Alan. There's some great info in the chat here. I'm not going to read out your whole comment, but it's a really good best practice for circularity. And Alan and I actually go way back. I learned some of my best tricks from him when it comes to continuous improvement. And it's so neat, I think, that as we're starting to progress and see, these increasing pressures, the regulatory challenges, compliance requirements that are emerging, new climate change regulations, strings attached to the funding that people are getting. There are all these different reasons that we need to keep upping our game and doing things better as an industry, that we're starting to think beyond, some of the things that I do, these methods have been around for decades. The continuous improvement methodologies like Six Sigma, like Lean, they go back 50, 100 years. And circularity, I believe, is a relatively more emerging practice. So anyway, I could go on about this. As you can tell, I get really excited. There's so much positive energy that gets generated when you're talking to people and you're helping them think about the processes that they work on every day and how things can be done better. Maybe it's a tiny bit better, or maybe it's a lot better. But we can also apply this to the administrative processes, like hiring people. We've done projects with compliance. We've done projects looking again back to the core value stream, the operations, changing the concaves in the crusher. We have to do it, right? But it doesn't need to take as long as it does. And especially if the crusher is your bottleneck, you are going to realize an increase in production just by tightening up your changeover procedures. So there's so much opportunity for improvement. That's why I love working in mining. And I want to just go through just kind of a high level explanation of why there's so much opportunity to apply continuous improvement in mining. It's because fundamentally, things don't ever go the way that we plan them to go. there's a strategy, there are targets, there's guidance, there are things that we plan to do, and then there's the execution of it. There is always a gap, and that is really nothing to be ashamed of. I don't think, those of us that have worked in industry for a long time know that these are just things that happen, right? Consumables go up, your breakdowns can happen, you can have problems with recovery or contamination, loss of throughput, for example, even looking at safety and environmental incidents. We want to pay attention to those gaps, and we want to be very purposeful about them, because if we don't, it's going to hurt our confidence with the market. Our stock price could even go down, so that's got serious financial ramifications. Internally as well, it can really result in a culture within the organization that is about distributing blame, right? Or sort of shuttling responsibility from one area to another. This is a recipe for people to be quitting as soon as they possibly can, or just checking out mentally, even if they're showing up to work every day. And maybe you've worked in a place like that, where people are there, their bodies are there, they're doing the work, but they're not really switched on. They're not really into their job or what they're doing. By and large, if we end up with a lack of trust between leaders and their employees, it's not going to be an optimally performing workplace. There is a high correlation. I know this from 20 years working at the intersection of mining and continuous improvement, between the high performing workplaces and the ones where the leaders and their employees are working together, valuing each other, listening to each other, and truly collaborating. So sometimes, and I've worked on both sides of the fence here, both as an independent contractor that helps my clients implement continuous improvement, and I've been on the other side as well as a champion of continuous improvement as an employee. And I know that sometimes we get so ambitious, we get so excited about everything we want to improve, that we try to boil the ocean. We have a big list of projects, and everything moves about this far each year, and the whole thing just sort of bogs down. And then the energy goes out of it, and we feel like it doesn't work, and we abandon it and do something else. Maybe it's just one more list on a long list for leaders that they are already not equipped to handle. Maybe people think that they're going to lose their jobs, and so they resist or they sabotage those change efforts. Maybe you've seen this before if you've worked in continuous improvement or similar efforts. lower intermittent participation, again, with a little bit of that lack of trust or lack of collaboration between the workers and the frontline and the frontline leaders. Or maybe you're identifying savings that then you're not executing on, or you're achieving the savings, but you're not able to sustain them. I personally find that one of the most heartbreaking situations, because you put in all that work to get the crusher working properly or to get the new tire use standards in place. And then 6 months later, we turn our back and we think about something else, and the needle goes right back in the opposite direction. That is heartbreaking when that happens. And there are solutions for that. There are tools and ways to make sure that your implemented savings stay implemented. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my business. We're called Onward Business Mechanics, and some of what we do, one of the ways I would say we distinguish ourselves a little bit is that the value that we give, we aim to solve problems that are immediate, that are causing you headaches right now. And we aim to sustain those improvements that we make. We don't just want to solve the problem for 5 minutes or 2 months. We want to solve it as permanently as possible. And that's where that buzzword of sustainability gets thrown in. That actually really does mean that's your ROI on whatever you invest to do the improvement. Ideally, it's not just me coming in and facilitating events, although I do that as well, per some of those examples I gave at the top of the presentation. It's also working with your employees, with your organization, to build their capacity to do this for themselves. You know the saying about feeding someone by giving them a fish, or teaching them how to fish, and then they'll always be able to feed themselves. I just love giving people that empowerment and working with them to help them see how they can do this for themselves, because there really is nothing like the ability to know that you're always winning and you're always getting a little bit better. This is the reason that video games are addictive. We love taking it to the next level as human beings when we tap into that that energy and that engagement of caring about what we're doing at work. So it's a win-win for both the people that are doing the improving as well as the leaders that are responsible for the performance of that organization. And I think over time, it doesn't get there overnight. It's not a first step, but eventually we arrive at a culture of improvement where this is normal. This is just how we do things. And it is, I get this question sometimes about improvement versus safety. Safety, of course, being a top priority in the mining industry. Anything we do has to support that core value of not harming our environment, not harming our workers, not harming our contractors or anyone that we come in contact with. A culture of improvement is actually a great way to make good on that commitment. It does not compete with safety whatsoever. So there's a little bit about me. I already mentioned 20 years of experience at the intersection of mining and continuous improvement. And speaking of haul trucks, there's me beside one of those tires that was being refurbished at the time. That was one of the projects that we worked on back then. And I don't know what else to say about continuous improvement in mining, except that it's been a great challenge for me. It's allowed me to deliver some great results for my clients. And I would really be interested if you want to learn any more about what we do. This was just a little client testimonial that I mentioned already. We slowed down. We didn't go for cost savings. We went for value optimization, and we were able to find 15 new initiatives. This is from a company that already had a business improvement program in place. We just sort of gave them a little zhuzh, a little reboot. And within 4 weeks, we had come up with some new projects that had a huge value creation, great ROI for them. So we can jump in, facilitate some events. The word Kaizen just means make things better. They are focused improvement sprints that result in a specific outcome on a problem that's been bothering you for a while. Then we can look at developing a whole continuous improvement program to really embed this in your organization. That would be the teaching your people how to fish kind of part. And as part of that, we do have some great content that dates back a little while that we've now modernized and put online in the form of e-learning modules so that the rest of your organization can really understand this. So would love to have a conversation with you. If you're interested at all, I'll make sure that my info is in the chat. And we're going to transition out of this sort of formal part of the program now. And Madi, let's just have a chat about the overlap that we see. Yeah, thank you very much, Alan. It was fun to look back on and compile this. Maybe I'll get us started, because we promised in the title of this webinar that we were going to try to bridge between circularity here and continuous improvement here. So I will maybe kick off by saying that collaboration is one of the most important pieces that I see of all of this. I know, especially, mining companies, they tend to be full of very smart, driven people. They will solve the problems that they have complete control over. What I've noticed over the years is that the time when they maybe need a little bit of support or help is when they have a problem that is affecting many different departments. And or maybe it's not just, the root causes are kind of distributed across different places, and sometimes it is difficult to convene that collaboration while they are running their mining operations. So collaboration, I would say, is one thing that circularity and continuous improvement in mining have in common. I wonder what else you spot.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I noticed that I didn't probably highlight that enough in my presentation, because also that partnership and collaboration is also key. Maybe you're more focusing on the like company level, but also because of the nature of implementing circularity across the value chain, identify the opportunity within the company, but also across the value chain. That requires also some sort of collaboration, partnership, and even the approach that you're taking to identify those opportunities, as you mentioned, breaking that silos between different departments.
Yeah.
That could be kind of applicable and transferable to those Kaizen events, transferable to this practices to identify opportunities across the value chain, like beyond like the just the mining side or the company. And also the other thing that would be very interesting because one of the thing I didn't mention it, but always like that's also a topic that how we measure, what are the metrics for measuring circularity. When a
Yes.
company is implementing a circular practice, they want to report on it, or they want to track their progress. So those metrics become important. So last year, ISO introduced a kind of a cross-sector framework, 59020 for circular economy performance measurement and assessment. And some of those are relevant to the mindset, but there are some specific what's called sector specific metrics, which I think some of them could be relevant. I'm sure when as we are talking about some of the metrics, and that of course economic ones are important. There are other ones that could be talked about. I think those metrics, development of the metrics could also have overlap between,
Yeah.
let's say, what you matters to you as someone who's focused on operational excellence, continuous improvement, where like someone was trying to identify those the metrics, relevant metrics for evaluating circularity performance and tracking progress. Yeah, I think that's also the metrics are also very key here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very fond of talking about the analogy of the scoreboard, right? You want to be able to walk into the
Yeah,
game, even if you come in, partway through the game, you look up, you see the scoreboard, you know what that means. You know whether you're winning or not. So it comes
yeah,
back
yeah,
to the beginning to define what are we actually trying to get out of this? How will we know if we're winning? And then how
exactly.
can we either correct and get back on track if things aren't what we expect, or how can we celebrate and keep it moving forward? If it is having that agility and that ability to look up at the scoreboard, I think would be important in either scenario, right?
I agree. I agree. Yeah, yeah. I
Great.
think
Okay. So, Madi, here's a question for you. Maybe this is a little bit of an unanswerable one, but which comes first, circularity or CI? What do you think? Maybe people in the chat would have an opinion on this.
uh, I will wait see if anyone wants that. For me, uh, I don't think that probably we can. I would probably be better to push this in parallel. I will more kind of political answer. Yeah. But of course, a lot of I think they could learn from each other. So probably sometimes depending on the priorities, but I don't think that we can mention like I see this like probably things should go in parallel, not just politically, but like to be kind of because we are both like focusing on different areas. But I think in reality also for the business, yeah, and for the future, probably we have to, of course, keep focus on both. I mean, circularity is one aspect in general, like that benefits to the environment and social bringing like creating that benefits to the environment, to the society, and of course to the economy. So those are kind of critical, and we can achieve this through different ways. I mean, one way could be that circularity, yeah, that framework. I don't know, do
Yeah,
you have an answer?
awesome. I
You
yeah,
have,
thank you for letting me put you on the spot there. As you can tell, we didn't rehearse this. I'm curious. I mean,
yeah,
I can absolutely appreciate your answer that it depends and both can
yeah,
work. And ideally, yes. I mean, I'm thinking about the ways that there are so many different problems to solve. It depends, probably it depends on your area of responsibility. If you are a
yeah,
senior leader responsible for strategy, responsible for business model, responsible for revenue, then those step change innovations are going to be within your portfolio. If you
yeah,
are an operational leader, then you're probably going to want to see what you can do to tidy up your area, make it run really efficiently. And that's where your area of focus and your area of responsibility is strongest. But there are definitely other areas of overlap and collaboration, right, to our point earlier. So I would say, yeah, I would say that it's not a really straightforward answer, but maybe I'll answer this question, then I'll hand it over to you, Madi, to talk a little bit more in detail about what it is that your company offers and what getting started exploring circularity could look like for them if they're interested. um, I would say that we always want to de-risk. We want to give that ROI and give that value as quickly as possible. We're not asking people to spend, or invest excessive amounts of money in the hopes they're going to see something. There's no sort of prayer or faith required here. Like there is a payback that happens quite quickly. And in some of the examples I gave, you can see, you can move the needle within 3 days. You invest in
yeah,
a 3 day event and you can already see some of the payback and some of the KPIs moving and the people getting involved and those solutions working. And so that maybe is another way to answer the question of, where does it make sense to start? Depends what you're responsible for, depends what your goal is, depends on where you want to focus. But we absolutely want to make sure, whether you're talking circularity or continuous improvement, that there is a payback that happens that gives you that faith and gives you
yeah.
that trust that this is going to work for you. It's going to be a good business decision that will become a successful part of how you're running your business and how you get to where you need to go in the coming years.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah, I think we can quickly. I think we are trying to end the meeting very soon, and just in a few minutes. So
Yeah.
I will just quickly and present a few slides just about the. Um, am I sharing the? Just make sure I'm sharing. So I don't take too much of your time. Um, so again, if you are I thought maybe if you're interested in getting started on circularity or kind of identify those opportunities at your desk. So we have what we developed something is what we call circularity assessment for. So it's a cross-sector forum. It's not specific to the mining or metals industry. And if you're interested, it's on our website. You can feel free to go and download it, and you might hopefully find it interesting and helpful. Also, I also want to mention that the ICMM in one of their documents, tools for circularity, and in the appendix, they have this business case for circularity guided checklist. So that checklist is also helpful. You can review that one. And I will end just very, very quickly about our company. Of course, we are new. We don't have that length of experience that Erica has, but still we are a passionate team trying to contribute to this circularity transition. And there are three areas that we are working on, and we are specializing in circularity integration, life cycle assessment, environmental impact assessment, and R&D support. Our R&D support is more related to bio-based materials, which may not be that much of interest to the people in this call, but our circularity integration includes like circularity audits, identify ways to resource um, paths and partnership building, as Erica mentioned, also is added that it's also key for circularity, and also that metrics development and based on strategy development, and also identifying implementation of those strategies when it comes to circularity. And life cycle assessment, LCA, probably you might have heard of it. It's basically going beyond just the carbon footprint calculation. It really tries to quantify all the environmental impacts, the impact on water, on land, etc., and including the carbon emissions to the air. And of course, there are some benefits. It becomes more important, especially like they're always emphasizing that you need to know our footprint, like the businesses, and that's basically LCA is the most comprehensive methodology to quantify the impact, and we do this through like using like established software within this field. So I would very much, if you are interested, happy to visit our website, and also info@fiberedo.ca is as our email. I just want to thank you on my behalf, and really thank you for joining us. So Erika,
Fantastic. Thanks, Mari, for sharing those specifics and those invitations. We wanted to be on brand and use your time very efficiently, deliver lots of value, and we hope that you've enjoyed what we have shared here today. I think Madi and I can probably stick around and field some questions if anyone is interested in chatting with us. However, for those of the rest of you that would like to take a few minutes and move on with your day, we really want to thank you for joining us and appreciate the time that you spent with us.